Alrighty. And we are recording, guys. And
Yay.
welcome to the Protocol 4 podcast, guys. We have managed to begin reassembling the team. We were once great, and then we fell, and we are picking up the pieces. So
Yeah.
we've managed to get William back from the. Where were you, William? Tell him a little bit about your adventures you were going on when you were separated from the Protocol 4 podcast, when you were doing your own little thing. You know, you're
These past few weeks I've been streaming Final Fantasy 13 3 with a good buddy of mine, Jamario. It's an alright game, but I feel he kind of gave up tonight because apparently he's gotten sick and tired of Lightning's adventures with a little boy and her trying to be a mom.
Wait,
Yeah.
so did he stop playing the game completely?
I have no idea. He just kind of gave up tonight. I don't know if he's actually giving up on the game for real or what.
I've seen streamers give up on games. It's pretty weird when they do that. Like, Siren pisses me off a lot. I stream this survival horror game called Siren. I'm Logan, by the way.
Yes, you are.
Our
You
loyal
are, in
listeners.
fact, Logan.
who the fuck is Logan? Okay.
I sometimes stream this PS2 horror game called Siren, and especially I just streamed it last night, and you were there for some of that, Grant, where
Yes,
I was really frustrated, but I'm never even think about dipping it up. I just feel like especially because I have one viewer who like specifically watches these streams and like always is in like the chat of every single one. Like, I don't want to, even if it's just one person, I don't want to make that person sad.
You're just gonna keep streaming Siren forever and ever. You're gonna 100% it, and you're gonna keep streaming it.
Oh God, we'll see.
Yeah, but I told you last night the strategy you need to use the paralyzer on that. Was it Shibitos or whatever the hell they're called?
Yeah, those are the enemies. Yeah, Shibito.
Yeah. Use the paralyzer. And then you would have
Yeah,
gotten.
Trying to figure out what the karate button was, but I couldn't find.
It's actually funny because I recently watched a review of Siren.
Oh.
And I believe it was I don't know if you've heard of him, but his name's Nitro Rad.
Doesn't sound that familiar.
It's weird how I just kind of get into like very random YouTubers.
Yeah.
But he pointed out something that I just thought was really funny because I had experienced the same thing watching your stream. Where you know how like I guess that game's ending is just like that guy he gets like puts on like samurai gear and then he just starts like killing everything, and you're like, what the hell's
Yeah.
going on? Yeah, he had like a skit where he talked about that, where he's just like, no matter what order you play it in, it'll always just cut to that, and it's the most random thing in the universe.
Well, I'm interested to know if there is, an actual ending. I guess it would kind of be pretty interesting if that's like the ending you get, but then obviously what matters would be the cutscenes that you would unlock past that would show you how you kind of get to that point.
Well,
but I don't know. It's an interesting game.
I mean, have you unlocked like the secret items and stuff, like secret pathways in the episodes?
I have no idea. I mean, you could kind of say that there are secret pathways in most of the episodes, but you could be talking about something different. I don't know.
Have you ever done something with a towel?
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, where you like
Okay.
turn the thing and open the door or something.
I don't know, but I don't want to spoil it too much because I know how you are. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's Siren. So I guess that's what they've been up to. I've been up to continuing work on my videos and
Yes.
yeah, and and job hunting. So boring ass shit. But yeah, so let's go right into the topics for tonight. And we're starting off a bit of a downer. Well, kind of a huge downer, honestly, especially for the people involved in it. There was pretty major story that's been breaking for the past couple weeks. Has it been a month at this point, or is it just the past couple weeks?
I guess I would say more than a couple weeks, but yeah, I mean it doesn't. Yeah, it's been it's something that's been building for so long that it's not surprising that it's just kind of been a growing tidal wave of stuff. And we did briefly mention it last week on the Blade Runner review cast.
Mm-hmm.
And we said like F the news, y'all know what's going to happen anyway. But I think we do want to talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Harvey Weinstein scandal. That's kind of at this point, I guess, still ongoing at this point,
Mm.
or is but I guess really it's more of a conversation of the issue of sexual harassment in general in Hollywood of women, because
Yeah.
that seems to just it's pretty rampant. In fact, James Gunn kind of did he out him, or did he just kind of supported he just wrote about, was it James Toback was the guy's name?
Yeah, there's this director James Toback who I think he's mostly known for like writing this movie called Bugsy. He directed a couple movies with Robert Downey Jr. when he was younger. And this guy, James Gunn, did not out this guy as a harasser. This is a guy who I think was like first outed as a harasser like by a magazine in the 80s. But I guess nobody really cared back then. And now there was an article that was on a website. This is the one that James shared, which is from, damn it, Facebook. It's from the LA Times, who's really the one who kind of shared about 38 women accusing this guy of harassment. And James Gunn just kind of wrote on Facebook this very interesting sort of opinion, similar sort of small opinion piece on it, where he's talking about how he personally has met 15 women who have been this guy has attempted to come onto or has actually harassed. Family, one of them is a family member that Toback apparently, he says, James Gunn says James Toback came up to his family member twice, not realizing she was the same person, to like try to get her. Like so he just won in a pretty long line now of people that have been in Hollywood and in the film community, not in Hollywood, who have been getting exposed for this kind of thing. It really kind of started last month. First with I don't know who was first. Damn, it's so many. Like, you know, the guy who runs the site Ain't It Cool News, Harry Knowles, was one of these people. There's this guy Devin Faraci who runs this film festival, who was accused, and there were other people who just like.
Didn't you write something on Facebook about children's animation having a huge issue with it? What's prompted that?
Yeah, that was on our Facebook chat. Yeah, and that's kind of something I was thinking of bringing up. Obviously not Hollywood, but I suppose
Like
there's this Nickelodeon
entertainment.
show called the yeah. William, do you have you heard anything about this?
What do you mean? About just abuse in film, or
No, this specific instance of this Nickelodeon show.
I wouldn't know what Nickelodeon would talk about. I was just thinking about how Clarence's creator was
Yes.
not a very good person around women, but that's Cartoon Network, not Nick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I was thinking of bringing up. Yeah, that's absolutely kind of connected to it. Where I guess also surprisingly, somewhat, maybe not so surprisingly, depending on how you look at the kind of psychology behind it. In children's animation, you find these people too. But the recent story is this guy. I think his name is Chris Sarvino, who created this Nickelodeon show called The Loud House. Obviously, I don't think any of us really watch Nick anymore. But this is an animated show.
None of us are 5 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard things about Loud House as a show, just not behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, the guy created that show, and he's another one. He was fired. He's already out, just like Skylar Pitt, Clarence, and voiced Clarence.
Yes.
And yeah, this guy's already out for that harassment, and it's so weird to kind of imagine that, like, it's such an epidemic, and you know there's more that's going to come. I mean, you know, let's not forget about Bill Cosby. You know, that was so long ago that we might kind of consider that to be in a different sphere, but really it's all part of the same problem. And I just want to know why. Like, I want to know what the psychology is, because I think there is something there to that.
These people have power, so they think they could just use it to get their way, and
yeah,
we need to do something about that, because that's not a safe environment.
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately the fact of the matter is kind of that, like, they feel that way kind of because they can get away with it for a very long time, because the people who are doing this are also the people who are giving everybody jobs. So
Mhm.
there's an inherent, power and balance there that allows them to get away with this stuff because people don't want to be the one that turns them in because they lose out on their freaking livelihoods from doing so.
Oh, the guy who created Screen Junkies, the channel that Honest Trailers are on, that guy also got accused.
Ooh.
But yeah, I mean, it's something that I was kind of wondering, especially in relation to the people like the Screen Junkies guy, like Harry Knowles, is I almost wonder if what they do kind of starts from this place of, I'm in this community that is always very progressive, very on the edge of what's new in culture, and also a community that is kind of known for excess and partying a lot. So I want to kind of get out there and meet people and have a lot of sex and have fun. And like, what kind of starts is this want to kind of just be confident and have fun? I imagine sort of maybe turns into this creepiness. Like, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if a couple of these guys, when they get called out on this, might go like, I was just trying to kind of get into a one night stand, and between two consenting adults, and I was trying to be confident, kind of cut my way in there, kind of get my way into that. And I think I was just being a cool Hollywood type of guy. That's how the party goes in Hollywood. But I kind of can see people getting into that sort of mindset where it's not like that they're evil at first so much as it is like I'm at a party where people are doing drugs, so clearly they'd be okay with like free love and all that.
I'm just saying right now, look at what you just said. Really does sound like something that will be explored in the next season of BoJack Horseman.
Yeah,
even
BoJack is
That feels like something that's gonna happen in the future, considering what's happening in the show right now.
Yeah, and they've explored that before. I guess they explored kind of more the Bill Cosby type with this episode. It's a couple seasons ago, I think, may have been third season, with Harry Hippopopoulos,
Yeah.
who was like a talk show host on the show. And I guess they definitely that's probably not over, the exploring harassment in Hollywood. BoJack. One of the great things about that show is just how like they really don't shy away from addressing stuff. They had a big abortion plotline last season that was like freaking insane, where they had like a freaking song about abortion. And like
crack.
Yeah, that was like so freaking crazy. They're really ballsy. Yeah, so I guess I could easily see them continue to explore that.
See, my opinion is, or the thing that's kind of weird about all this is that I understand exactly why, like, people like Harvey Weinstein and Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly. I mean, I know they're not like Hollywood, but they're still like big, powerful businessmen. And I think it's a similar mentality because, they're older, so they came from a time when like sexually harassing women was just like okay. Like it's like the 50s, like they didn't care. Like no one cared about women's rights and stuff then. So that they grew up in that, and then they really adjusted to, not being creepers. So I think that's kind of where that birthed from with them. But it's kind of scary that there's a younger generation of guys in similar positions doing similar things as well. And with that, I think it's just a power trip. I think they're just like, hey, you're hot, and I have the power to convince you to do stuff you don't want to do. So then I want you to sleep with me because no one wants to sleep with me. So sleep with me, I guess. But like, and I don't know. It's just there was a similar thing. It wasn't. I don't know if it wasn't really sexual harassment, but Joss Whedon had gotten outed for I guess sexual indiscretions, where he cheated on his wife. Right? It was his wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. He cheated on his wife with what was it, like 3 women or something?
I think so. Yeah, and yeah. He was probably another one of those guys who's just like, I'm in Hollywood. I can just,
that's what he said, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, he tried to make some kind of BS excuse for it, where he's like, these women are throwing themselves at me all the time, and it's such a temptation. And it's like, dude, you have a wife.
It's your responsibility to, not do the things that are gonna get you fired.
Yeah. What would Jesus do?
Yeah. I mean, because, like, it's one thing to, like, I guess, cheat on your spouse, but the issue is that he's sleeping with people who directly work under him and stuff, and that's kind of an issue because there's an power imbalance there. It's like how you shouldn't be sleeping with your students if you're a teacher.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be sleeping with your clients if you're a
There are it's like
psychologist.
there's multiple like pop culture things that have spoken, hey, like bosses and their coworkers, they shouldn't get with each other. Like they'll be seen as like not sure the proper term is like being considered as like rape, or if there's like an actual specific term for it off the top of my head, but yeah, you're not supposed to do that. That's no good. Don't.
Yeah.
Just don't be responsible. Don't.
It's just especially was weird, I think, for Joss Whedon, considering his position as kind of like this, where he tries to be this almost like a feminist ally icon sort of guy.
Yeah, that's a big step down.
Yeah, people really started.
It's like, no, you have a thing going for you. Don't ruin that for yourself.
Yeah, people really started, I think, like kind of removing him from that description after Avengers 2, when people realized like this guy doesn't really write women that well. He
doesn't write any characters that well. If the Avengers movies are like the blame.
I mean, is that why he tried to kind of do that fake controversy about Jurassic World?
Did he?
Wasn't
he like badmouth Jurassic World?
Yeah, because it was like for a trailer for the movie. He saw like the scientist woman, and he was complaining that it was sexist, like without having really seen any of the film. So people were pissed at him about that. It seemed kind of at the time when he did it. It just seemed like kind of random. It's kind of like James Cameron's thing about commenting on Wonder Woman as a positive female character.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really that weird. It would have been weird if James Cameron hadn't been like, well, you see, Sarah Connor, on the other hand, is a great female character, because that's just James Cameron being James Cameron. But that's not weird. That's just James Cameron being James Cameron. He's like, my thing is great.
Yeah, like you just kind of have to shake your head at that. Like James Cameron, I mean, obviously compared to the other stuff we've been talking about, that's peanuts. But it was like, dude, just like shut your mouth. Like just like you don't
please.
You don't need to like go like, no, I created my women weren't like 9s or 10s. My women were 7s and 8s. So it was clearly, thus, my women are better examples of strong women.
Sarah Connor wasn't even like unattractive though.
Yeah.
If I recall. So
even in the second movie, she's pretty like, she's pretty good looking. But I don't want to. Yeah. No, the whole thing was weird, but I don't know. The topic at hand. Well, I guess we were on Joss Whedon, and we were on. Yeah, that we were kind of talking about how it was weird that people are like just now people who maybe are only like 10 years older than us or younger, are doing this too.
Yeah.
And I'm just really happy that this keeps going. This I don't know, this tidal wave of like, you could say catharsis or reveals and everything. And clearly, you have a lot of people who are very happy about it. Who are just like, happy that their stories are finally getting out, that their friends' stories are finally getting out. And like, I think, I don't want to be too optimistic, but it seems like this could be it. Like this could be kind of the watershed in terms of like this stuff actually not going away, maybe, but certainly, being dealt with. I've even heard talk that I think Laura Dern was going to be involved in some sort of like council they were going to try to set up to try to address this stuff, because Laura Dern was talking about how she was raised by actors, so she kind of was able to avoid some of this stuff where other people wouldn't have been able to, and she got lucky in that respect. But I know others aren't so lucky. So I've heard they were going to set something like that up, and I hope it continues. Some of these instances I've been sad to hear about. Obviously, with Quentin Tarantino, he sort of tried to apologize for not speaking out about Harvey Weinstein when he could have. and a lot of people are pretty rightfully mad at him, even though he seemed very solemn apology. People are right to be mad at him because what he did was still wrong. And something that really hurt me was that David Blaine was accused of rape. And I'm actually I would consider myself a fan of his. I don't like aggressively watch his stuff, but I think his style of magic and stunts that he did was very cool. And I have his book. So that was very sad to me, and I hope that's not true. But I mean, you can't really deny anymore.
Well, I mean, that's, that's the emotion people felt like when Bill Cosby kind of got outed. I mean,
Yeah.
people didn't want to believe it, but it is kind of ultimately what it is. It's like to I guess a lesser extent. I suppose you can call this kind of naivete on my part, but up until Michael Jackson died, I believe he didn't molest the children. I believe that it was something that, was kind of set up by the parents. I thought it was weird that the parents are just like, oh, go hang out with Michael Jackson, like all that kind of stuff.
I mean, the thing with Michael Jackson is, I feel really, really sorry for him. Is that his entire family is a mess. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because their father beat the living shit out of them for their entire childhood, and he didn't have one.
So like him being a child molester, like, I just feel bad because he's been through a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like the thing is like, because there was a part of me that definitely, I mean, not really a part of me, like I didn't want it to be true that he molested them, because I thought it was like a nice thing where it's like, oh, he didn't have a childhood, so like he does kind of act like a child, but at the same time he tries to help children and to like be child friendly to kind of make up for that time. And like I was like, he's just like that kind of a weird guy that he might have a sleepover with kids and there's nothing sexual about it, if that makes sense. That he's just trying to relive his childhood. And like then they found child pornography in his house later after he died, so that kind of settled the case as to what was going on. And it was sad.
Yeah, at first it seemed like he's just an innocent person. He just wasn't.
Yeah,
and it hurts to think about that.
Yeah, and like, yeah, so and that's the thing that a lot of people feel like when like. That's the issue with hero worship or like idolizing these people, is they're all people.
People have flaws. They're not perfect.
Yeah. And sometimes they're pretty goddamn huge flaws, and sometimes that makes them horrible people, even if they did something you like. I don't like. I really like Clint Eastwood's movies, but he didn't. To be fair to him, he hasn't like said anything too heinous, but he did kind of vaguely support Trump a little bit. He like the last thing I heard about him saying was that he said he thought people were too hard on Trump, and then he called us the pussy generation, which like to be fair seems like a Clint Eastwood thing to kind of say, just because it's like he's a manly man, so him calling something the pussy generation makes sense. But like, I like his movies. I like his movies as a director. I like him as an actor. The Dollars trilogy are some of my favorite films, and they work almost specifically. One of the big reasons is because I feel like he does such a good job in the role as the man with no name, and so I want him in my head to be like this just cool ass guy.
With Martin Luther King, he's
I
a really big
gonna...
person in history who committed adultery. He's a really good person, but he did do a bad thing because. No one's perfect. Everyone does bad things, but that's why it's important for us to all try to do the good thing and like good stuff anyway, because someone might be looking up to us, and we should be that good person they want us to be, and just keep on going.
I feel like, especially now, those walls are kind of beginning to crumble, especially with the presence of social media, where you can really look in on someone with Twitter. I mean, you can't go on Twitter and not like expose your true self. Like that's like Twitter's entire thing. Is like you can go on there with every intention to like put up a front or whatever, and you're probably that's probably not gonna work. Like you're gonna get into a Twitter argument with somebody where you're gonna like lose your temper, and you're gonna like show something. And like there are a ton of celebrities who don't even care about that. Like there are a ton of celebrities who openly engage people in arguments, and you didn't get that before. Like, you didn't get a chance to see that side of anyone. So yeah, I mean, now we kind of know everyone's political opinion, and everyone's like some problems that everyone has. So it's kind of good in that respect because we can still look up to people. We just kind of realize now that they're not idols, and it's like the same thing that you go through with your parents when you're a kid, when you realize they're people. Now we're realizing celebrities are people. Correct.
Yeah. Alrighty. Cough. That's what I think of idols. But yeah. So that is. I think that's about good for that. What was our next item on our itinerary?
I guess it's October. So we're kind of going to talk about some of the if we've been watching or doing any Halloween related things. I already kind of talked about Siren earlier, and I don't have much more to say about that. It's a spooky game. I've been playing it for a long ass time, like probably over a year now. I've been streaming it in bits and pieces. And I feel like that's mostly. I don't think I've watched any horror movies this month. I think I might have watched one.
So I decided this month. I usually don't get into the Halloween spirit. So I decided this month I was gonna make a special effort to do so, kinda a little bit. So I've just been watching horror movies a lot since this month started. So I have seen. I'm trying. Let me think about this. So I have seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Exorcist, Friday the 13th Part 4. I feel like something else. But in any case, yeah, I have been watching stuff. Oh yeah, and Horror of Dracula. So, especially this is kind of an interesting experience for me because I am not a horror movie fan usually. Especially until probably if you had asked me a few years ago, I would have told you that there is no such thing as a good horror movie. And to an extent, my reasoning for that still kind of applies in that I have never been scared by a horror movie. But as time's kind of been going on, I've become more and more of like a movie buff kind of guy. I have been I've learned to appreciate a lot of the stuff about the genre. Kind of goes beyond just like, oh, does it scare me? So for example, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I liked it a lot. It was a very good movie. And it was, it was a slasher flick. But like the thing about it is what kind of differentiates it from other slasher flicks is like there was more of like an effort to actually create like a scary like environment, and there was more attention to Leatherface as a character. And kind of characterizing the villains of the movie rather than like say like Jason, where it's just Jason. Right, let me go because I actually like Jason a lot, so I don't really want to insult him. But like say, Michael Myers from Halloween, where they're just kind of like a killer. With Leatherface, what's kind of cool about the movie is they do kind of like humanize him and just kind of show his place in his family hierarchy. There's actually a really it was kind of funny. It was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Was just like after he had killed someone, he just like went into the other room, and he just like sat in a chair and like put his head in his hands and was just like kind of like it was just like he was thinking, oh, what the hell am I gonna do now? Like he's just like thinking. And I'm just like, that's kind of cool to like give a killer just kind of like that kind of a human moment, and that contributes to actually making it more creepy because then it's kind of like something that's actually happened, as opposed to something like Jason where it's just a guy killing people, Uh, and one of the things that I've noticed about horror movies, and this kind of I especially noticed it. Oh yeah, The Babysitter. I also saw that. Um, so yeah, it's a Netflix movie, relatively new. Uh, so I saw that, and the movie it was okay. It was like pretty average. It was a horror comedy movie. Netflix basically just like a comedy movie with a horror skin, about a killer babysitter. And the
Hmm.
thing is like I saw the movie, and I'm kind of like, oh, like I compared it immediately to a horror comedy video game I like a lot, Illbleed. Immediately, and my
Good game.
comparison, yeah, I like it. It has a lot of flaws, but I like it a lot. And I thought about it, and I'm like, so why do I like Illbleed a lot, but I didn't really like The Babysitter that much? And so I kind of came to the conclusion that a horror comedy needs to be it needs to be a horror movie with comedy in it, as opposed to just like a comedy. It's a horror movie with a comedy skin, as opposed to a comedy movie with a horror skin. And The Babysitter kind of was that, because nothing about The Babysitter was horrific at all. It was honestly like the way the characters acted was like Joss Whedon was writing it, where people would just make like snarky remarks
This is
and
the Joss bashing episode apparently.
sure. But like, I mean, because that was the thing, is like that happened, and my immediate thought about the writing, from Babysitter was Joss Whedon, because like there's a scene where it's like the main character had seen someone get killed, and he's tied to a chair in front of like the killers, and like he wakes up, and his very first thing is he's like, why is that guy shirtless, like in like a funny snarky voice. And I'm like, this makes no sense, like especially since the character since he's supposed to be characterized as like a particularly cowardly kid. Like, even if though this is a comedy movie, that's still breaking character, and like that's not real. That's just bad writing at that point, to have somebody break character. That has nothing to do with something being a comedy or a horror movie. The character should kind of be in character. So like, I thought about it. Illbleed, as opposed to that, is actually good and funny, because it is funny. Illbleed has makes me laugh several times, but Illbleed, like the horror setups for the stages in it, are actually legitimately creepy, in theory. It's like the first stage is like a guy runs an inn, uh, that's specifically catered to like wayward children and stuff, to like teach them, uh, to teach them baseball and stuff. And like then some of the kids like fuck around and end up burning the whole place down, and they kill his son, and then he gets burned to horrifically maimed in the fire, and like then he goes crazy. Like that's a horrific setup, like that's a successfully creepy setup, and then they kind of treat it with goof. So like so that's the difference. That it takes a horrific setup and then has comedy in it. Whereas The Babysitter kind of theoretically took a horrific setup, but doesn't really treat it with any of the horror, and just kind of makes jokes. Um, yeah, and then that kind of got me thinking about a larger concept, where I noticed a lot of the best horror movies have comedy elements in them. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is kind of is definite. It's not really like conjecture that it's at least partially black comedy. The director himself has pointed out that it has it. He specifically directed the second movie to be more comedic, because he thought people didn't get the black comedy elements in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, but the original Evil Dead, I mean, that's why, again, like Evil Dead 2 kind of became a horror comedy movie, because it was playing on those more goofy camp elements that kind of worked to be funny. The Shining has a lot of, things that can very easily be interpreted to be funny. I mean, come on, like Here's Johnny. Like, people parody that in non-horror things all the time, because that's just like a comedic thing that happened, you know? Um, And then The Exorcist. I mean, everything the demon says is, definitely something you can use for comedy and kind of has a comedy value to it. Are you back, Logan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can actually hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Good.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's kind of something I noticed is that just a lot of the great horror films have that comedy element to it, and I think that that's kind of important, is because weirdly enough, horror and comedy is more intertwined than people might believe it is. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can say quite a bit about that because I'm writing a movie that is kind of a horror comedy right now. I would have actually finished the script by now if my laptop kind of crashed for going to work time. And it's really I thought of it first as a story, and then kind of realized this is going to be maybe a little scary, but also quite funny. And I just kind of wrote it. I kind of let the characters kind of do their thing, as some writers say. I know that sounds very pretentious. And it sort of ended up being kind of like a horror with a lot of comedy. So yeah, I would definitely agree that I think a lot of the best horror movies are like that, because when you see someone who is scared, it can be a little funny. I mean, like it's just like this person kind of freaking out. Like when you think about it, if someone's scared of something that you are not scared of, that is funny. Like it's not like if you're seeing a video of even a child scared of like a small animal, like there are a lot of people who find that very funny. So it's definitely connected. But yeah, I mean, this is what I was gonna say was in terms of like writing, making sure that characters aren't being funny, being they shouldn't be, is like kind of a little bit of a problem that I've had with the script that I'm writing, and something that I still might need to make sure I get correct. I was just kind of saying that in writing a screenplay that sort of ended up as like this weird kind of pseudo horror movie, I've definitely thought about some of the same things that you've been saying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, my best recommendation I think for that is just like, because comedy comes from situations, and like I feel like a lot of people just write something to be comedic as opposed to finding the comedy in the situation they're given. So like that would be my thing, is like with a horror comedy movie, your goal is to try to find comedy in a horrific situation, as opposed to I made this horrific situation comedic going in. Because like there's like the babysitter wasn't really funny. That was the thing, is because the jokes were kind of obvious. I didn't even mention this in my Letterboxd review, but there was a particular joke that annoyed the hell out of me, where it was like they'd show, because like things have done it before, where they'll show text about something, and like it's supposed to be funny that they're showing that text. Like he has a knife, and then they have text that shows up, and it's like, knife, bitches. And I'm like, that's not funny. Like, that's what happens. Have you ever seen that, where it's like something has like snarky text? It's supposed to be kind of like, hipster comedy,
I guess. I don't know. I mean, like Hugo Stiglitz from Inglourious Basterds, when they show his name on the screen.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but then it's like, yeah, it's similar to that. But yeah, it wasn't a very funny movie, and like it wasn't horrific, so like it kind of fails at both things. And whereas something like Illbleed kind of succeeds at both. I mean, again, I'm not really like per se scared by Illbleed, though there are moments in it that are actually kind of scary. But most of the time it's still mostly like creepy at worst, but it's still funny. When Illbleed's trying to be funny, it is funny generally, and that's kind of the success of it. I'm trying to think of like a horror comedy. I mean, I kind of find the Friday the 13th movies to be funny. They're not. I don't think they're supposed to be intentionally funny, though. I think later ones they might, but like there's funny elements to the Friday the 13th films because they're campy, and like there is kind of like a black comedy element even if it's not intentional. And you know, that's kind of like the thing is like just like horror and comedy are kind of very intertwined, you know, for kind of what you said, where it's just like there's aspects of being scared that are kind of funny just in how you react. I mean, you know, if you just kind of take what was the actress that played the wife in The Shining?
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall. Like her faces are hilarious throughout that movie. So like, but like in that instance, like it's not like it's bad acting in the film. It actually makes sense. She's actually particularly good in that role. You kind of believe that she's like this desperate woman trapped in a giant hotel with this, you know, her killer husband, and that she doesn't know what the fuck's going on anymore. But like, it's still funny. And the same thing with Jack Nicholson. I mean, he's scary, he's creepy, but he's also funny. But yeah,
that's just a good aspect of that to talk about. I don't think people address that too much.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna be continuing to watch horror movies throughout October. I still got a few down my voodoo to watch. I really want to get through John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, which would be The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness, and The Prince of Darkness. As far as I know, only The Thing is supposed to be good from that trilogy. But
the Prince of Darkness just sounds funny, like the general concept of that movie.
Yeah, I also want to watch. I don't know when I would, but I really want to watch Reanimator and From Beyond. Stuart Gordon, I believe is his name. Those I'm interested in watching those. I'm just kind of like in that kind of mood for those kind of movies.
Stuart Gordon is interesting because he co-directed this movie called Robot Jox.
Mm-hmm.
If you know about Robot Jox, then like it's kind of hard to explain, but it's this robot movie where you had two directors, one of whom was him, and he's like, I want this to be serious, and one of whom was this other guy, who was like, I want this to be really fun and crazy, and like their viewpoints like totally clash, and the movie ends up being really weird. That's what I know about that guy.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. But yeah,
it's good.
But yeah, so I think that was it for that topic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was in September, and I saw that, and that was good. And that did one part of that legitimately did scare the shit out of me. So it was good in that respect. And it also had a fair amount of comedy in it. But other than that, move on.
Alrighty. So our next topic was Mario.
Yeah.
So Mario Odyssey will be coming out. When's its release date?
Friday.
So Friday, Super Mario Odyssey is coming out. The next big 3D Mario, really since Galaxy. I mean, there has been other 3D Marios, but this is kind of like on the same caliber as Galaxy and like Sunshine and 64. Yeah, and Galaxy 2. And it's been 7 years since the last one. Long time. But I thought it was a good opportunity because I actually recently played the demo. And I thought what I played of it, I really, really liked. It actually made me want to get a Switch, which is very high praise for me because I am somebody who I played like about 2 hours of Mario Galaxy and I fell asleep from boredom. So the fact that I enjoyed Odyssey as much as I did just from playing it is I'm very happy about. I played, I don't know what the name of the stage is, but it was the stage where it's a red desert and there's frozen stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just called the Sand Kingdom. I think it's like there is an actual name for it,
but I played that stage. I liked it. You know, there was a brief moment where I went into like a old 2D 8-bit Mario game, which was cool. I like the hat mechanic where you can possess stuff. And I like the fact that you can throw it and then use that. You can jump on the thing while you hold it in place as a double jump.
Yeah. Did you notice? I don't know like how evident this is just from playing it that you can move the Joy-Con to control where the hat goes.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's like, I think that sounds like a very cool integration of, of motion controls. That would be very like integrated basically into the experience. As one that you wouldn't feel intrusive.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I liked what I played of it a lot, so I figured this was a good time to talk about what's each of ours favorite Mario game and why. I will go first. So my choice is actually something of a bit it's something of a controversial choice.
Or
My
you
favorite...
could say that it was and is less so now, but it's still somewhat controversial.
Yeah. So my pick for top Mario game is Super Mario Sunshine. Now a lot of people, especially I know if Johnny was here, he'd be yelling at me.
Yeah, he'll destroy you.
Yeah,
You'll be banned from the call forever.
Yeah, Johnny does not like Super Mario Sunshine. I really liked it. I have always liked it since I was a kid. And it's not as if like I grew up first on that. I did grow up on Sunshine to an extent, but I definitely grew up on 64 more. But I really like Sunshine because it kind of gave me this feeling that not many games did, where I actually felt like I was on vacation.
Medication? Some games make you feel that way.
Yeah, the medication is going on vacation with your boy Mario.
But it made me feel like I was on vacation, and it's always been like kind of like a happy, like very like this.
Are you on medication? You might need some.
Yeah. Just sorry, I got a cough.
You yelled at me when I coughed in this freaking podcast.
Okay, but yeah. So I liked Sunshine a lot because it had a more cohesive world. Like Delfino Island was more defined as like you're exploring it, as opposed to something like 64 or Galaxy, where it's very much so that it's just a bunch of separate levels that don't relate to each other. With Sunshine, you're like, hey, I got a cough, all right? Just chill.
I know, it's just funny. You're like talking and coughing at the same time.
Yeah. But it's like, you're going to the Delfino Harbor. This is like where they get their exports and stuff. So it's like a taste of the economics of the island. Or you're going to the hotel. Like, all this stuff works as one singular unit, and I like that. And I think that actually is, ironically, probably one of the reasons people liked it the least out of the Mario games, is because you didn't get as much variety with the environments. But I kind of specifically liked that because I felt more like I was exploring an island. And I liked the music. I liked the game. It was a very unique feeling game that I don't feel many I can't really think of a game off the top of my head that captures a similar feeling. So that was kind of why it's my favorite one.
But don't forget the fact that, Bowser teaches Bowser Jr. that it's okay that he doesn't know who his mom is because he has a cool dad.
Yeah, I definitely think that like Super Mario Sunshine is like Nintendo innovation, like at some of its most interesting and creative and different. Like they really did stuff that they did not know people would be into. And a lot of people weren't into it, but if you're open-minded, you will like it a lot.
Or you're Johnny, in which case you hate a lot. Hi, regardless. But yeah. So what are your guys' favorite Mario games?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll hand it over to William, because I know you kind of are not quite as in with the Mario series as we are.
No, I have to ask. Does it have to be like a platform or just literally anything under the umbrella? Because there's a lot of games.
Well, why not just do both then? If you can name a platformer and something else.
Okay, well, favorite Mario game of all time is Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. That's a good as RPG.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's just a game where like you get the Mario world, we expand on it, get some cool partners, and it's expansion of Paper Mario, which is already a good RPG. So it's like me and Mario just went to my house and went, hey, William, you like Paper Mario, don't you? Yeah, I played a bit of it. No, I did to emulate, but I had fun. I'd give you money for playing Paper Mario.
That's
What if we had more? We had more Paper Mario. I'm like, what? You can't do that.
You're
It's like,
beginning
this better than your original Paper Mario. It's like, oh my god. Oh my god.
Your beginning of that pitch kind of sounded like a drug deal, though. You're like, hey, you like Paper Mario?
Listen, Miyamoto has many jobs. Let's be real. But yeah, Paper Mario Last Return. That's a really good game, and I do feel for people who really wish like Nintendo would just get in gear and just make another Paper Mario RPG. But we've discussed why.
Yeah,
Miyamoto's, a developer who.
No, you could almost say that Sticker Star and Color Splash are where like Nintendo innovation has gone wrong.
Yeah, they went a bit too creative, let's say.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to say like just a platformer, it's a tie between my nostalgia favorite Yoshi's Island, because I could just play that for like ever and just have fun, and Galaxy 2, because Super Mario Galaxy 2 is just exploring, you just have a good time. It really feels like 64 again, but like even more beautiful. And the music's really good in Galaxy 2, and the music's really good in Yoshi's Island. It's like you got two good platforms right there for me. Even though Yoshi's Island does have some extra levels in the Game Boy Advance version, including Kamek Revenge, which are just awful. Don't do this. That's hell. That's hell.
Yeah, I recall them being really hard. Yeah, those are probably my favorites, honestly. Yoshi's Island is probably my favorite platformer, and it's one that I really love that game so much, but I haven't played it in so long that I don't think about it too much. And then Galaxy 2, as I've said many times to people, is my favorite 3D one, and my favorite overall. To me, like, yes, I do like the connected feeling of 64. And Sunshine, and I will like it in Odyssey, I know. But to me, Galaxy 2 is just the most fun Mario. It's almost that simple to me. It's the most fun to play. It looks great. You get all these different cool-looking levels, some of which have like just surprisingly weird kind of moments in them, you could say. And I almost specifically remember playing one of the Bowser Jr. boss battles, which is the one where you use the Cloud Flower a lot. Bowser Jr. has like this giant cannon tower, and you're just kind of creating clouds and jumping all around the stage. And I just remember like almost pausing to think like, this is so fun. Like I couldn't believe it. I was already like 17 or 18 at this point, so I wasn't just being some kid who would like anything. And I just remember kind of realizing like, this is just so great. I am enjoying myself so much right now. And that was kind of the moment when it started its ascent to being my favorite Mario.
That was the moment that I knew I would be his forever, man.
Yeah, sure. I love Mario, and I love his I love Charles Martinet and his voice work. But yeah, I mean, all the power-ups are great. Some of them return from the first game. Some of them, like the spring flower, they don't use too much, which is probably a good idea. And just everything is better to me. Like I don't really even care that you have this really tiny hub of Starship Mario, like that doesn't matter much to me. Like I know people like the Starship Observatory. I know people like big hub worlds, the Starship Observatory being, I think, the one from the first game. I know people like the more in-depth story of the first game, and I do too, but like I said, Galaxy 2 is just the most fun. You get Yoshi, you get to jump around and do a lot of cool moves and spins and all kinds of things. Bowser is freaking massive in Galaxy 2, which I love. He's like very imposing and cool. And I like the boss fights with him. The other boss fights are great too. And it's just like, it's so funny for a game that started as they originally going to call it either Super Mario Galaxy 1.5 or Super Mario Galaxy More, was one of the names.
More. There's more to Galaxy. Let's go.
Yeah, and many or most of the levels, or at least many of them, were going to be like reskins and like added content onto the original Galaxy. And it's so interesting that they took that and just said, no, we're gonna make all new levels, and it became the best Mario game. well, not all new levels because they did recreate Whomp's Fortress from Mario 64 in Galaxy 2, which is very cool. And it just turned out to be the best one. And just, I mean, I just love Mario. I think like it is like almost like the most fun, the most actual fun I tend to have playing a game, and that's part of why I'm so excited for Odyssey, because it's just a return to the creativity and the open world aspect of Sunshine, but in all new different ways.
I
And
can't
yeah,
wait for
I mean,
Mario to show that anyone could be Mario. Even you, Logan. You could be Mario
yeah,
right now, and you'll
yeah.
never know.
If Mario would deign to capture me, um,
Sounds a bit inappropriate, Logan.
Listen, I was watching the Giant Bomb E3 stream, and just hearing the commentators freak out about Mario turning to people was the best.
yeah. It was funny because people freaked out about him even being around people, and now he's turning into it.
Mario can just be anybody. You can stop him. You could be
I
even
mean-
turning to Kirby, who has the ability to just eat whatever he wants.
I mean, like, I literally, from the small amount I played of Odyssey, I could very realistically see it being my new favorite Mario game. But I'd have to have a Switch for that, and I don't have that.
And how
because-
crazy would that be after 30 years, 30 plus years of Mario for this to be the best one? Like, that would be awesome.
I'm just
I mean,
saying, if we
it's
all
not-
get Switches, that'd be a dream to me.
I mean, a lot of people say that, that Breath of the Wild's the best Zelda game. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I still
That's
rate
not that
Twilight
crazy.
Princess as my favorite.
that's interesting. I like Twilight Princess a lot. I mean, at least, hey, as long as you're not saying Skyward Sword, you're okay.
I don't know.
People
No
who
one's
think
saying
Skyward Sword's your favorite have interesting feelings. I really do want to hear the perspective, because
Oh, okay.
What was that?
But
I've learned things about Skyward Sword in terms of speedrun at the same time. That doesn't save the game for me.
I mean-
one thing I do have to say about Mario also is that one of my favorite Mario games, definitely in my top 3 or 4, is Super Mario 3D World, which is a game that got so much crap and continues to get it. And like I was just talking about it on the stream last night, where like, yes, I acknowledge that it is different than 3D Mario. It is not really 3D Mario as we know it. Maybe it's not quite as fun, but like it's so good and it looks so good also. That does matter a little bit. And like people complain about the multiplayer in New Super Mario Bros. Being annoying, and like that's like totally fixed with 3D World. Like the multiplayer is really, really fun. There's like always enough power-ups for everybody. You don't really get in anybody else's way. The only annoying thing is when one of my freaking roommates would always rush into the little like teleport box that would take you to the next area before we were done playing in that area, and that was annoying. But other than that, that game like really doesn't deserve what it gets. I'm sure 3D Land is also good. 3D World, like, there's a ton of fun stuff in there, a ton of great levels and great content, great bosses. I love Bowser's like friggin' Casino Land. That's like a really cool like idea for a world. I love Meowser. He's great. And I like the final battle where he like uses all your power-ups that you've been using throughout the game.
Mhm.
And I love all the extras. So yeah, I just wanted to say my piece on that as well.
I mean, but yeah, I'm sure Odyssey's gonna be good. One thing that we were kind of talking about was, Nintendo's weird relationship with innovation. The thing I noticed is that they tend to have their really bad innovation whenever they're trying to bring back a series that is been out of commission for a while. So like with Paper Mario, they hadn't made one since the GameCube, then they made the new one for 3DS. And Star Fox as well.
To be fair, Kid Icarus didn't suffer from that.
That is true.
But that's the thing. With Kid Icarus, the idea was Sakurai made gameplay first, and then thought, "Hey, this fits better with Kid Icarus." Well, with Paper Mario and Star Fox, I think what happened was Miyamoto went this one thing, it wouldn't budge on that thing. So the Paper Mario, he wanted stickers, and he kept going, "No, we don't need experience. Just use stickers." And battles are to get coin. Like he just wants everything to be done this one way. I really don't know. I don't. We haven't had interviews about that, but that's kind of issues that Mimo has these ideas, and it's not bad to have the ideas, but they don't really go anywhere interesting with them.
Well, see, no, the issue with the Kid Icarus thing, though, is that they didn't really have a formula to work with Kid Icarus, so they could have just done whatever. There's no. It's the same thing with Metroid, where it's like they have a a formula and they don't release it, and then fucking Federation Force happens. Which, to be fair, they did do. Samus Returns, the remake, but that's a remake, so I don't really know how much you can say that as being like
great... Samus Returns, the company who did make it, that was a good game from a company that has traditionally made some pretty not so good games.
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, I reviewed Samus Returns on the podcast, and then so you probably remember that I liked it.
But yeah, it's still like it's a remake, so they're working with an already established kind of good game formula. So,
but they are getting Prime 4 at some point.
Oh, we're getting a JPEG of Prime 4 at some point.
Oh no, not a JPEG.
That'll be literally the whole game. Is that they ship a disc with the JPEG.
Listen, it will come out on Final Fantasy VII Episode 1. Yeah, I got your number, Square Enix. What now?
I mean, the thing about I really hope they don't. I really don't want them to do the stupid Final Fantasy VII remake, but whatever. I'm a minority in that. Huh?
Our current estimate is 2020.
They're like, we'll do it if Trump doesn't get reelected. So you gotta get out the vote.
God.
Final Fantasy, go to the polls.
Oh God! Why don't Final Fantasy go to the polls?
God. And she wondered why she lost. But yeah. I'm sorry. Did we have another topic?
No, I mean,
kind of a slow week.
Yeah, I mean, and we're just kind of getting back into the groove of doing this podcast in general.
Yeah, we've been.
We're trying to.
You guys have been busy, so it's been a bit of a scheduling nightmare, as it were.
And we're also kind of trying to shake things up and trying to have longer conversations about more open-ended topics.
Because we're
that'll take a bit of time to get used to.
Yeah, we're very interesting.
Yeah, we
people,
think so.
So we make very interesting commentary on stuff like that.
Yeah.
News. That's such an old person's game. We're young hipsters, so we know what's up. We do the open.
We even used to Bill O'Reilly and them. Yeah, I mean, I guess just to wrap up the Mario topic. I don't know. I kind of took Mario for granted for a long time. And then I realized, like, man, I really love these games. And I realized how many of them I played. And I find it amazing that there has, like, not been a bad 3D Mario to me. And they've all been basically great. Like, 64 is dated as hell.
Like, I fell in love with 64. I haven't played it at all, so...
I still like 64. I can.
Yeah, I didn't play as a kid, so playing the like months ago and just enjoy it made me go, no, this can't be dead. I'm having fun. I can just run around and explore. What is this game? This is great.
Yeah, that was the game that made me think that Mario said "Nopsico."
What the hell? What was he actually saying?
Well, he says "Let's-a go," but for some reason, as a kid, I was always
gay, like a jerk. See, Mario has flaws, and he's my hero.
Well, Mario's well established as calling people gay, so.
Yeah, gay Luigi, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could almost say like every Nintendo franchise has like one or more Dark Horse sort of titles. Even Kirby probably. I don't know much about Kirby. But like Mario, like 3D Mario especially, It's amazing how, to me, obviously you don't like Galaxy, like to me, how consistently freaking like home runs that all these games are. Like that's Nintendo. Like that's like what Nintendo represents, what their innovation, the best of the sort of Nintendo innovation, and just like the best they have to offer on every system they make is usually represented by any 3D Mario they do.
I mean, they did that mostly with the Zelda as well until Skyward Sword, and
Yeah.
you would even argue you liked Skyward Sword though. So
I liked it. Yeah, it was good in many respects. I did like how it used the motion controls. So, but then you could also say like that, like it wasn't a representation of the best aspects of like Nintendo's philosophies, because like they are Nintendo's philosophy of let's make this game accessible to everyone got in the way so much. Like like people complain about Fi is like their biggest complaint about that game. It's like how much he doesn't shut up. People complain about how the game tells you what you picked up every time you come back after saving it. It acts like you never picked up a freaking rupee before. And they give you descriptions for everything. Like
what's
that's
funny. But what's
that's
funny
Nintendo
about that
philosophy
is
going wrong.
Wind Waker did that.
Did it?
Because I remember, yeah, when Wind Waker, whenever you loaded up a save, the next time you picked up a rupee, they would do like it's a blue rupee, it's worth this amount. Like they do the whole like big. Well,
Really?
I think they might.
You sure that wasn't just when you got one from underwater?
No, I recall it distinctively. It might not have done it for green rupees, but I distinctly recall that it would do that definitely for larger sums. Like if you got like a red rupee or something, they would do that if you had recently, if you had loaded up the game since the last time you collected it. I could be remembering wrong, but I do remember that being a thing. Twilight Princess might have done it as well, actually.
No, the problem with Twilight Princess was how you could never if your wallet was full, you couldn't get rupees from chests. Link would just put it back in. So you would like feel like you hadn't gotten all the chests in a dungeon. Doesn't mean you wouldn't have, because you would just have all these chests full of rupees that you couldn't get.
Well, yeah, that's the Zelda problem of rupees kind of being useless.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild fixes that a little bit. But then later on in the game you can get a ton of them.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan on the planet, but I mean, in terms of actual design, they're generally pretty consistent. They're not really it's not like they're Sonic or something where it's like they make like fucking 06 randomly in their series. It's like the worst it'll get is kind of like cliched and like stale, but like still competently made, and that's kind of like why I haven't really liked Nintendo for a while, is I felt like most of their products were kind of stale. But Odyssey was fun. I mean, from what I played, I really liked it. It was kind of more of a return to form of what I originally liked Nintendo for. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll be good. It's gonna get good reviews, like we know it will. It doesn't really matter.
Picking
it's
it
a
up.
Nintendo game.
This Thursday at midnight, I actually I pre-ordered it at Best Buy, and they had a sign up saying they were going to do a midnight release, and then I called them. There's a list on their website that did not have that store on it, of the midnight release stores. I called them up. They're like, no, we're not doing one. I was like, okay, I got the sign. Must have been wrong. So I canceled my pre-order and just pre-ordered it at one that will have the midnight release. So I'll be able to play it Thursday night.
You should have thrown a fit.
Yeah, no, I wanted to.
Just been like, you promised me, but this is you over the phone. You're like, but you promised me a midnight release. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We know it was a bit of misinformation, but I was really excited for this midnight release. So why can't you just have it happen now? Well, sir, we don't really have to I want this midnight release to fucking happen. Get your goddamn man and just escalate.
That time I was got locked out of a store in a midnight release for a game. This is perfect.
Wait, you got locked out of the store?
In the mall.
Oh.
In the store.
Yeah, because what happened was that like I was going to the midnight release for Pokemon Sun and Moon. And like I don't know what happened with the mall, but like they tried to lock us in. Like the security guard didn't realize GameStop was doing that.
Kill all Pokemon fans.
Yeah, it's burning to the ground. That's it.
That was code name Pokemon Go to the polls.
Damn.
Yeah, they were gonna bring in like Hillary, like Hillary, like I don't know, contracts to sign or something.
But yeah.
All right.
Alrighty. So thanks for listening as always. Obviously a bit of technical problems this
Yeah,
episode.
it's a
Sorry
weird
about that.
episode.
Yeah. It's chill. Sometimes you gotta do it, man. But yeah. So have a good night or day, whatever time frame you are watching this or listening to
God.
this. Yeah.